Do you find yourself counting things, or perhaps arranging things or rearranging things until you have them in the exact right order, the order that seems perfect? Or perhaps you're incredibly concerned that you're going to forget something important. So you run over that to-do list over and over in your head, even if you have it written down somewhere. If you do these types of things, you may be concerned that you have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. But there is another possibility, and that is high functioning anxiety. I'm Heather. I'm an anxiety coach, and I personally overcame high functioning anxiety and have had the opportunity to work with hundreds of clients, enabling them to resolve their own anxiety. And I felt it was really important to make this video to help you discover if some of the behaviors or thoughts that you have might be OCD or if they are high functioning anxiety. So obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, is a mental health disorder that occurs when a person gets caught in a cycle of obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are unwanted, intrusive thoughts, images, or urges that trigger intensely distressing feelings. Compulsions are behaviors that an individual engages in an attempt to get rid of the obsessions or to decrease the distress. These are repetitive behaviors or thoughts that a person uses in the hopes that the compulsion will make the obsession go away. When obsessions or compulsions occur, they feel outside of the person's control. They don't want to do the things that they are doing or think the things that they're thinking, but they can't stop. And in the context of OCD, obsessions are time consuming and they really get in the way of important activities that the person really values. I got some information from the International OCD Foundation that helps define what some common obsessions in OCD are. These are fear of contamination, losing control, harm, unwanted sexual thoughts, or obsessions related to perfectionism. And this is where things start to really make sense in terms of high functioning anxiety. So in obsessions related to perfection, there is a concern about evenness or exactness. There is a concern with a need to know or to remember. There is a fear of forgetting something important, forgetting important information. There can be the inability to decide whether to discard things, and there can be the fear of losing things. So I'm going to come back to obsessions related to perfectionism and how it relates to high functioning anxiety in a minute. But let's talk about common compulsions. So again, this is a list from the International OCD Foundation of common compulsions. There's washing and cleaning, there's checking, there's repeating. There are mental compulsions, which includes counting while performing a task to end on a good, right, or safe number. And there is other compulsions, which includes putting things in order or arranging things until it feels right. Let me tell you about my own experience with high functioning anxiety, because I had thoughts and behaviors that were very close to obsessions and compulsions that I just described, but I didn't have OCD. When I had high functioning anxiety, I wanted things to be perfect. And that is a very common sign of high functioning anxiety. I would spend vast amounts of time, my time, trying to achieve that state, like trying to get to perfect. Concern about evenness or exactness. My behavior that was similar to a compulsion that I used to do was organize things around my house so that things were very symmetrical or orderly. I would organize drawers or cabinets so that everything was very tidy. I used to be very concerned about the egg carton. I would always take eggs out of the carton from the outside in when I was using them, and I would rearrange the eggs if somebody else had used them so that I could make sure that the eggs were as symmetrical as possible in the carton. Fear of losing or forgetting important information. I used to run through to-do lists in my head over and over. It did not matter if I had items or tasks in my calendar. It didn't matter if I had them written down on a to-do list. If I was at work, I was thinking about what I needed to do at home or for my kids. And if I was at home, I was thinking about what I needed to do at work. Mental compulsions, which includes counting while performing a task to end on a good, right, or safe number. I used to count things a lot. I would count random things. It might be that I would hear the dryer running and I would count the rotation. Or maybe I would be at a stoplight with my turn signal on and I would count the clicks of the turn signal. So here is where the distinction between OCD and high functioning anxiety comes in. If you have high functioning anxiety, you are a high achiever and you're highly functional in the world. That's where the high functioning part comes in. People with high functioning anxiety are very driven and they have a big issue with perfectionism. They're trying to make everything perfect all the time. So that's why I used to arrange or rearrange things in my house. I wanted my house to be perfect, to look perfect. And I would exert control over things in my environment to try and maintain that perfectionism. And because I was trying to maintain perfectionism all of the time, I didn't want to let something slip, right? Where I might forget to do something that needed to be done. And that's why I used to run through my to-do list over and over in my mind, because I wanted to stay on top of everything. So I was managing everything in my life so that it could be perfect. People with high functioning anxiety are overthinkers. They're often thinking about the past, ruminating about what they could have done better or said differently or how they could have responded differently. And if they aren't doing that, they're thinking about the future. They're worried about things that might happen, things that could possibly go wrong. There is this sort of strategic chess game that goes on in their head where they think about all sorts of different scenarios about how things could possibly play out. And they make all sorts of contingency plans based on those different scenarios. Simply put, people with high functioning anxiety are massive overthinkers. And since their brain gets in the cycle of overthinking, they will often create things for their brain to do so that their brain is constantly working. So that's why I used to count things. I know someone who counts the brush strokes while he's brushing his teeth. This is simply a way to give the brain something to do. The counting is just a way to keep your brain active and going all the time if you're not actively thinking about something else already. So if we go back to the definition of OCD, obsessions are time-consuming and get in the way of important activities that the person values. So this is how you can distinguish between OCD and high-functioning anxiety. For me and for people I have worked with, the behavior or the thoughts may seem like OCD, but they're not getting in the way of important activities. Also, with my personal examples of rearranging the eggs in the carton or, counting the turn signal clicks on my car, I could have easily not done those things. They weren't distressing to me. I could have stopped those actions if I wanted to. So this is where you have to evaluate your thoughts and your behaviors to determine if they trigger intensely distressing feelings. Plus, look for other signs that you may have high functioning anxiety. I'll link to a video that you can watch to see if you have other symptoms of high functioning anxiety. If you are ready to start addressing your high functioning anxiety, I work with individuals in one-on-one coaching, and I also have group programs that I offer. So I will link to those options down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.